Welcome to the Talk Unmentionables podcast, an inclusive space for real, unfiltered conversations about topics we often shy away from. From confronting imposter syndrome and redefining your professional brand to navigating the complexities of marriage and parenthood to coping with grief. Each episode explores life's unmentionables with openness, empathy, and authenticity. This is a space where honesty meets growth. Welcome back to the Talk Unmentionables podcast. I'm your host, Deniece Daniels, and today we're diving into the topic of leadership adaptability, a subject that is timely, practical, and relevant across industries in today's rapidly changing world. In this episode, we'll explore what leadership adaptability really means beyond the buzzword. We'll talk about how effective leaders adjust their mindset, communication, and decision-making without losing their core values. If you're a leader, an aspiring leader, or someone who influences others in any capacity, this conversation is for you. I'm joined by Tigran Khrimian, a transformation-focused chief technology officer with more than 2 decades of experience modernizing complex enterprises into cloud-native, data-driven, and innovation-led organizations. He holds both his master's and bachelor's in computer science. Today, he draws on his experience in leadership and AI transformation to provide thoughtful perspective on the increasingly vital topic of leadership adaptability. Welcome, Tigran.
It's great to be here.
I'm really glad that you're here with us talking about leadership adaptability from your perspective as both a technology executive and transformation leader. How would you define leadership adaptability?
Great. Look, before we get into the details, one thing that I like to do is just picture what it might look like. So I always think about music performance. So on one side, you have orchestra. You have a classical orchestra playing. You have a conductor. You have people that come in and out. You have at the beginning, middle, and end. On the other hand, you have this picture, a busy jazz club. Where there's a performance going on. Players are coming into the set in a mid-performance. They're joining, they're jamming, and the customers are requesting different songs. So it's a little bit more chaotic, but at the same, it's very enjoyable session. So you got this classical side versus the jazz that is really not predictable. Adaptable leaders kind of do. It's one of those things that they lead with clarity during the uncertain times. So it's a big change. So they have a clarity, they have purpose. They're doing that with a vision in mind. And many times people think of vision, this fancy word that, look, I can't come up with the vision, only a few people can come up. But really, that's not the case. The vision is what do you want to become? So what do you want to become? Where are you now? Where you want to go? Where you want to become in 3 to 5 years? So having that clarity of vision, clarity of purpose and leadership. And the second thing is about what do you do to prepare for that change? So it's one thing to lead and everything else, but what steps have you taken to prepare the organization to lead through that uncharted territory? And what steps have you taken to prepare yourself? What changes you have gone in terms of leadership to withstand that change and make it fun versus chaotic for the organization and people.
Yeah. So there's a level of structure and predictability, but at the same time, you have to be open to the unpredictable aspects that may come at you. And that will allow for that beautiful orchestration of that jazz song that you're listening to. Okay. I love that.
Yeah, essentially with jazz, you don't have the death end. With the classical, you start, you know who is coming in and out, and at the end of the day, there's a performance that everyone reads the same notes, essentially.
Yeah.
The jazz, they don't have notes. They just jump in and start playing.
Now, I love that analogy. It's something that I think people don't necessarily think about, especially people like myself that are very A-type. I can plan for everything.
Right.
I already have plan A, B, C in mind, even though I don't know what the problem is going to be. So just having that ability to be flexible and adaptable is going to be essential to be successful in leadership adaptability.
All right.
So what would you say distinguishes an adaptable leader from one who simply reacts to change? You kind of alluded to that a little bit, but could you expand?
Yeah, absolutely. When people react to change, it creates other effects. It's like a whack-a-mole. You hit one thing, it pops up from the other side. You hit that, and then there's another thing. I remember when our policy people were doing something, our operations people came back and said, well, we can't implement this because it's complicated, right? And then when technology gets involved, for example, and saying, look, do you want us to implement this change? So it's kind of a whack-a-mole thing happens when it's a big change and you're really not planning for it, you're not preparing the organization. Adaptable leaders, they notice that it's a change. First thing they do saying, look, this is a different game. Mm-hmm. We don't have a playbook for this. We don't have notes, we don't have the playbook. So what we need to do is pause and see what has to change. What has to change from a leader perspective and what has to change from the organization perspective. And, with adaptable leadership, it's the constant planning. You never get satisfied because there is no destination. Mm-hmm. You're constantly moving forward. You are very comfortable with ambiguity. Look, we're going in this direction. We don't know exactly where we're going to stop. We're going to stop. We're going to enjoy ourselves. We're going to have meals. We're going to have bathroom breaks and things like that. Lastly, they create an environment where everyone learns from the experience. Experimentation is the key there because, hey, collectively, we admit that we don't know. And if we don't know, how do we remove uncertainty? We learn together. So that's kind of where I say the difference is between reacting to something. Because when you react, it starts, it takes more time. And at best case, you take the organization sideways. Yeah. Worst case, you go backwards. But when you're kind of more adaptive leader, you always kind of move forward. Mm-hmm.
I think those are all really good points. And when I'm thinking about what you're saying and processing that, it's an adaptable leader is a lifelong learner. They're not just teaching others, they're learning in the process, they're learning from other people. So being able to have an open mind is going to be essential as you are adapting to change, not just as the leader, but when you're bringing people along that change.
I completely agree with that. Well said, life learners, and not only learning from peers, the mentors, but also learning from your team. Yeah. Absolutely right.
Awesome. So let's move from definition to experience. Can you share an example from your own journey where you had to adapt as a leader in a difficult or unexpected situation?
Yeah, there were obviously several of them, but the one that comes to mind is this project that we undertook called CAT. It's a Consolidate Audit Trail. And for the listeners, let me just give a brief history of what it is.
We love explanations.
So 2010, there was a flash crash in the market. Mm-hmm. Dow Jones Industrial dropped 1,000 points, $1 trillion loss within a day. Wow. Everything came back within an hour or so, but then the question was asked by Securities and Exchange Commission. So what happened? How could we, that's what the definition of flash. It flashed in front of you, it dropped, and then there's a lot of movements and some people lost a lot of money. A lot of time was spent to diagnose, to ask the questions, to produce the reports, and up to this day, there are still debates whether we got this right, what exactly happened. But in 2012, SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, said, look, we need to overhaul this reporting structure. We need more data, we need more transparency, we need to build this database so that when this happens again, we have an answer right away. Right. So they created this program called CAT. They put together an organizations of SROs, self-regulatory organizations, that are exchanges and FINRA, to kind of run the program. And in 2017, they selected a company called Thesis Technology to be the CAD processor.
Okay.
FINRA was one of the companies to bid for that work, but it didn't get it. But Thesis Technology did. After a couple of years, there were a lot of missed deliverables. There were unhappy customers. There were the cost overruns, and a lot of millions of dollars wasted. So in 2019, FINRA had to step in to essentially save the project.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine a situation. This is an industry utility. This is unhappy customers, huge magnitude of the failed project,
Mm-hmm.
and now you're being asked, "Are we ready to take on this project?" And at that point, it was like, in addition to that project, we had other two major board reportable initiatives. One was registration transformation, and the other one was a digital experience transformation, where we were saving firms money by refactoring their systems. So it was a tough decision. A lot of time was spent with the leadership team saying, this is a major thing. Let's pause here. Can we actually do this? Oh, by the way, it's a big technology lift because you're really building the world's largest financial database at that point. And actually, no one has done it. No one has done it, especially doing this in the cloud. It was kind of a new thing. So it's new from kind of decision-making, technology. All these pressures were on. So that was the project that came to us, to FINRA, and we were able to actually take it on.
Yeah. And what was your specific role in that project?
I was lead technology person to implement.
Okay. And so let's talk about that a little bit more. When we're talking about that example that you shared, what specifically required you to change? Was it your mindset, your strategy, communication, all the above, or something else?
A lot of things, all the above, probably. First of all, as I said, it was a big decision that pretty much from the CEO top, everyone was involved. So definitely the strategy had to change. The question we would ask, what are we willing to give up? What are we willing not do in order to take this on? What has to change from our strategic priorities? So that's a strategic decision that leadership had to make. The communication had to change because of the, one of the things I forgot to mention, it had very tight deadlines. So we had to move at a very fast pace. So in order to do that, you really need to open up the communication to make sure that it's just flatten it out. So technology would run weekly kind of a sprints. They would show where things are, and everyone could come in and listen in.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a change rather than classical hierarchy of, managers reporting to their bosses and things like that. We had to flatten the communication for everyone to come in and obtain information at any minute, right? So strategy, communication, our process had to change. We had to really move fast. This was like a failed project for 2 years. This was, as I mentioned, complexity, and can we actually save the project? So the speed, the velocity had to change. We had to tweak our processes, how we make decisions, how we empower people to make decisions. And lastly, I would say there was a mindset shift between myself and the leaders who were running, saying, look, we're going to fail. We're going to fail small. We're not going to fail big. And we need to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And we can't just press the panic button if we're going to fail, because this is new. This is going to change. So that really brought everyone together from the legal, finance, business, technology. We just became a marquee kind of a project where I think there's a FINRA before CAT and then FINRA after CAT. And in 4 months, in April of 2020, we delivered our first release. And it was like, wow, this is impressive. So a lot of things had to change, as you can imagine.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that really sticks out to me is the last thing you said, putting failure to the forefront and letting people know it's going to happen. We accept that and we're going to work through that. So making it something that isn't a bad thing. It's a way that you'll have an opportunity to learn. I think, we say that, and you hear it so often now, fail fast. But implementing it and really staying true to that is a challenge, especially I feel like for leaders, because you are expected not to fail as much as people say, oh no, we know
Yeah,
you're
yeah, yeah.
going to.
Right. Absolutely right. I mean, it's not a human nature to say, okay, you're going to fail. And well, how many times are you going to fail? You better be right most of the time, right? So there's this constant thing that we kind of say, but we want to make sure that we're minimizing those
Yeah.
failures and we're using those failures as a learning opportunity. I know it's kind of a cliche to say like, oh, we got to learn from our mistakes, but really when you're taking on a project of that magnitude,
Yeah.
well, you really don't know how this is going to work. It's very challenging. It hasn't been done before. We haven't done all these parallel projects. We're just going to say we're prepared because before that we went to the cloud. We tested those waters. Before that we tested the data management. Before that we tested a few things, so we knew where this is not completely new thing, right? So we were planning, knowing that we're kind of in a big data business. We need data to protect investors. So we made those bets early on, and that kind of paid off.
Yeah.
Had we had to start from the beginning, it would probably not work out.
Right. And I do want to touch on one other thing. You said you had tight deadlines and you had to move fast. But as we all know, a lot of times there's a lot of red tape in the way, or there's a lot of approvals that need to take place. How do you navigate moving fast when you know there's a certain approval chain or whatever that might be that's going to hold you back from moving fast?
That's a great question. And every organization has processes. They have checks and balances. They have steps that they need to go through. There's a risk that needs to be mitigated. How do you actually do this? Sitting down and saying, we have to change certain things. It's gonna be okay to allow people to make decisions on their own within these boundaries. Type 1, type 2 decisions. Go do a lot of type 2 decisions. If it's a really type 1 decision, make sure other people are involved and the management is involved. So we had to establish these new rules, how to make decisions quickly.
Okay, that makes complete sense. So it sounds like the communication came before or very early on in order to set the stage to continue to move forward as quickly as you could to meet those deadlines.
Right.
All right, so given your deep involvement in AI transformation, the hot topic these days, I want to focus just a little bit here and get your opinion on how is AI reshaping what it means to be an adaptable leader today?
Yeah, it's a very relevant question. And I think now we're seeing this line blur between functional responsibilities. Oh, I'm a business leader, or I'm a technology leader. I come up with business processes technology has to implement. It's almost like starting to blur where everyone has to say, well, AI is reducing barrier to entry to solve problems. And you don't really need to have a developer to give you a prototype or prototype your ideas. You can just do it yourself using English, using AI and English and just prototype and put your ideas forward. We are seeing that AI is improving processes in many businesses, in many functional lines. Think about the customer support, right? You have bots quickly responding to the questions. You have reservations. You have software engineering, or many companies now are using AI to write software, so that improves productivity. Function by function, AI is entering and providing more value to the, improving the processes. So irrespective of where you are in the organization, business, technology, doesn't matter. It becomes kind of a leadership imperative to ask, what can I do? How can I leverage AI to improve my processes? With that comes the, what's my vision? What do I want to become? And how AI can help me to get there. And that puts a lot of pressure on the leaders to not knowing where this is going, but move forward.
Yeah, and I would say that's at all levels. Everyone is a leader, whether you're a leader of a project or individuals. How you're approaching your day-to-day has to be forward-thinking and adjust because it's coming at you so quickly. The other component is where's my job going? But it sounds like, based off of what I'm hearing from you, in the corporate sector, there's actually going to be a lot more collaboration when it comes to these different teams and how they're leveraging AI, because you have to put a different hat on. Would you say that is kind of the way that you're seeing it, where people are going to be less in their silos of things, at least in the beginning as we're kind of learning more about this?
100% more collaboration. And there's 3 C's that start elevating to the top. Curiosity. We need to be generally curious about this thing. What does it do? How does it solve? What do leaders in the industry do with this technology, right? Critical thinking. It's like, well, it produced this result. Is this valid? How do I know that? Right? I mean, we know it hallucinates, but things are getting better and better. And communication. Communication starts becoming even more important now, because how do you communicate with AI will yield better answers. The more context you give, the more understanding that it can go sideways, you can bring it back. And back to your point, when you said everyone has to take a leadership role, I 100% agree. And once we have our digital employees join the organization, guess what? We'll automatically become supervisors, because we need to supervise the digital employees. So we need to become leaders.
I love that concept. I hadn't heard that yet. Digital employees. Okay.
I have whole idea and business plan for that, so we can chat more.
We'll talk about that offline. What old habits would you say are becoming barriers to effective leadership, especially when it comes to AI?
Yeah, I observed many instances of over-delegation. It's like, look, this is a big change. Do you really want to over-delegate multiple levels below? So that this is one of the few areas that leadership needs to kind of assume more agency, more drive. So that's one thing. The second thing is the classical, we just don't have time, we're busy. And as leaders on all levels, especially at the mid-level, mid-manager level, we need to free up time. Because if we don't do it, then we're just going backwards to, like, we're reacting. And, then we need to ask the question, like, what should we stop doing? What should we experiment with? Also, it requires courage and risk-taking, because this technology is still maturing and it's really moving fast. So do you jump in now? Do you jump in later? Are you going to miss this opportunity?
So I want to probe a little bit more about this concept of time, because we all know we're not going to get more than 24 hours out of the day. And a portion of those 24 hours we're sleeping, we're doing other things besides working. How are you making more time or opening up time? Because,
yeah. 24 hours, I'm pushing to 25. No, we still have 24 hours. And I think this is asking the question whether we should continue doing what we were doing before, whether it's the relationships you have with some people and it's just not going anywhere, participating in, whether in the community, how do you balance that with family? I want to be present in the moment. So rather than thinking in the past or in the future, I'm like, look, this is my life. This is what's in front of me now. How do I maximize this? And, let's not forget that AI is definitely helping, like administrative stuff with writing, with productivity, with generating PowerPoints, with like all this stuff. It's so much faster now. So definitely.
Yeah. Maximizing time. That's where we're going to go with. Okay. Okay. So one more question around the AI piece. What new skills do you think leaders will need to effectively navigate the age of AI?
Entrepreneurs are kind of wired to, persevere or pivot or just continue until they run out of money, right? I mean, it's becoming the entrepreneur at work. What does that mean? That means learn fast, fail fast, make faster decisions, tighten up that cycle. Don't let the time go too far. So Borrowing from the Silicon Valley and the startup entrepreneurs, some playbooks, I think would be really valuable because we're all trying to figure out where is this taking us, what happens to my team, what happens to the developers who now 30% AI writes code. What is their job going to be, right? There's so many unknowns.
Yeah, as an entrepreneur, you do need to think fast, act fast, and be okay with that failure and know that the failure is not going to put you down. It might set you back. And the way that you're saying to implement it in corporate, I think it's practical enough for people to say, okay, I don't have to change myself. I need to learn this completely new skill. I can take what I have, but I can just tweak it just a little bit to be a little bit more comfortable with the unknown.
That's right. And also it comes kind of like the mindset and communication with the leadership saying, we need to give that space for experimentation. So let's not press the panic button. Let's make sure we're giving people that space with the proper guardrails for them to practice this. You can't read about this. You can't do it. They just need to practice it.
Yeah, space is key.
Yeah.
As we wrap up, if you could leave the listeners with a focused set of tools and resources for leading well through constant change, what would you recommend they start using or doing?
There's a lot of great material out there, great books, podcasts, knowledgeable people. I find these days that interacting with AI is helping me a lot to answer the questions that it would have taken me longer time to get to. One of the tricks that I learned early on was AI is great when you know, here's my prompt, you want this to write the document or summarize it for you. When the prompt is clear, the context is clear, it produces great results. You start having tough time to engage with AI. Let's say I want to create a business plan. I have some idea I want to test. And I don't know where to start. So one of the things that I learned, which I tell people, is that you can engage with AI, give enough, saying, hey, I'm trying to get into this type of a business. I'm unsure about this. Why don't you ask me one question at a time until I tell you stop? Let's become my brainstorm partner. And then at the end, when I say stop, you go ahead and produce everything that we talked about. It's fascinating. It starts asking questions that you would have not thought about. And so I highly encourage folks to try that kind of feature, to kind of use that as a brainstorm partner, and let AI ask you questions.
That has helped me. I'm still very new to AI. I just started using ChatGPT, the paid feature. And it is great because it builds upon your way of asking questions, concepts that you've asked in the past. It's been really helpful. And I like how it prompts, should I ask you these questions or this?
Right.
And I'm like, oh, well, let me pick this one.
Yeah.
And I just keep digging and digging. I probably spend way too much time on certain things. You say people should spend time. How much time are you spending on average, a day, a week, kind of learning or teaching your AI assistant what you're looking to approach in a conversation?
Yeah, it becomes natural for me. It's not like a set time. It's like part of my kind of life. If I'm on email, I use Gmail. The assistant is there. If I need to write a document, email, and everything else, it's just right there next to me. So at some point, this is going to be ubiquitous. And then the question is going to shift rather than us, how much time are we spending with AI? Like, how much time are we freeing up to give it to AI so that we can think about more new things or better things to do. So I would say if I'm on the computer, there's nothing that I do on the computer that doesn't involve AI these days, because by default, if you search now, AI comes up in the Google and it prompts you the things like that.
So even though people might not be setting time aside, you need to realize how much AI is already ingrained into your life in the background, whether you know it or not.
There are concepts of, look, how do I do better prompting? Things like that. Those are the things I think it's easy to master. But for usage, for general use, it should be almost kind of out of the box, very intuitive.
Yeah. very second nature to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know you said books and podcasts. Can you name one book and one podcast that you would recommend for someone, whether it's AI based or the topic that we're talking about holistically with leadership adaptability, if they come to mind?
Yeah, one of the books that I read early on is called AI Driven Leader by Jeff Woods, and I highly recommend that because it's a business leadership book. It's not a technology book. Those are the tips how to use AI. I learned it from there, and he also touches on the human side of the AI of bringing people along in this journey of teaching them the skills so they're not left behind. This is a very important thing that's near dear to my heart of kind of like making sure that people are kind of using to their advantage and they don't fall behind. In terms of podcast, there's this podcast called Last Week in AI. Everything that happened last week, this is like way too much information. But you know, I can't think of, I think of an A kind of A.
Okay.
But yeah.
Those are good. So I'm going to ask you one final question, and it's what final piece of advice would you give to anyone aiming to become a more adaptable leader and future ready?
One thing that really resonates with me when, as leaders, you always want to have answers. You're like, hey, there's a problem, we need an answer. Get together with people, like, what do you think? What do you think? Where's the answer? Like, and then you debate. Adaptable leaders need to understand that there's no answer right now. Stop asking for answers, essentially.
Yeah.
You're not going to get an answer. Instead, you should ask what better questions I should be asking. For example, what are we learning today? What didn't we know yesterday that we know now? Is our strategy on the right path? Do we need to pivot? Yes or no? What assumptions are we making in our strategy that we're completely uncomfortable with? So those are the areas where things can go completely sideways. You're just trying to navigate to a destination, not a straight path, but you're going to go. Are you going sideways or are you going back? You just want to protect going sideways and backward. You want to move forward. So you just need to enable the organization to ask questions about learning. Are we learning? What things are we removing uncertainties? Because everything is uncertainty. Which things now we know? Because it's no longer an uncertainty. And all of a sudden you see a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. Turn on your navigation systems. So Tigran, I just want to say thank you again for joining me today. You shared a lot of perspective and insights from your own experiences, and I know they can really help and assist other people as they're moving along in this journey of leadership, how to adapt to change, what that looks like to them. So thank you.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me, and this is amazing. Thanks for doing this.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
To our listeners, if this episode resonated with you, share it with a leader in your life and keep the conversation going. Leadership adaptability is strengthened through shared insight and honest discussion. The future belongs to leaders who are willing to listen, adjust, and lead with courage in real time. Stay tuned for the next episode and visit talkunmentionablesmedia.com to learn about my consulting services. Whether you're seeking guidance for your business, your team, or your own professional development and personal growth, I would love to work with you one-on-one to help you achieve your goals and bring your vision to life.